My name is Tyler Charlebois, and if you're watching this video, that's because you've probably asked me, what is NAC, right? What is Neuro-Associative Conditioning, which is what that stands for. What I want to break down for you in this video is not only what NAC, Neuro-Associative Conditioning, is, but also how to use it and why this can probably help you as well, okay? One thing I want to mention before we get started here is I can understand skepticism that you or anyone else might have when you come to my Instagram or one of my social media platforms and think, who is this guy talking about how he can just cure/get rid of my phobias or my fears or my traumatic memories literally in minutes, when I have been seeing so many therapists, counselors, medications, changing my diet, doing all of the different things, EMDR, CBT, exposure therapy, ERP therapy, and I've been doing this for years and nothing has seemed to work for me. What does this guy have to offer that's different? And that's what I want to explain very specifically here. I'm not just so bright that I made this up on my own. I figured this out over several years of studying all of the different therapies and asking myself one question. What is happening at the moment when a therapy works? Because I can look around and see that all therapies work some of the time, but none of them worked all of the time. And so I was curious, well, what makes the difference between when a therapy does work versus when it's not working? And unfortunately, when it does work, was a lot more far and few in between, but I found what was going on. And so what neuro-associative conditioning is very simple, okay? If you've tried all of the different therapies and nothing's worked, changing your diet, changing your exercise, right? If you've tried all of those different things, there's only a couple components that you're missing, and NAC explains what that is. So NAC is really just a way to condition your mind and body, aka your nervous system, to break that pattern of anxiety attacks in your body, panic attacks in your body, traumatic memories in your mind and body, and condition your mind and body to feel as you want to feel. Now, maybe you felt incredible before you started feeling all of this anxiety and panic attacks. Maybe you've been feeling like this for a long time. Maybe you just started today feeling panic attacks and you came across my profile. Either way, if there was a time when you did feel great in your life up until all this, NAC would help you get back to that, okay? If you've never felt good as long as you can remember, NAC will help you to feel as good as you could possibly want to feel and feel whatever you want to feel. So what NAC really is in a nutshell, before we dive into the nitty-gritty specifics, is allowing you to take full control of your neurochemistry, aka full control of your emotions, how you feel. So this is to put you back in the driver's seat, okay? Some people have asked me if I use hypnosis because it's so fast. There's hypnotic things in it, but there's hypnotic things in everyday life. You're literally in a trance right now as you watch this. So everything is hypnosis to a degree. Do I use it? Not really. This is what NAC is. Imagine that you and I are not afraid of the ocean, but one day we accidentally fall in, we almost drown, and in that moment become deathly afraid of the ocean or even the water, right? That fear was learned in a moment. It didn't take time because your brain learned to become afraid of it because it had such a painful, scary experience. So it learned, oh my God, the water equals terrifying. So now when we think about water or going for a swim or possibly taking a shower, we freak out because our brain has neurologically linked up water equals pain. Does this make sense? Another example is, imagine if you have a CD player, right? You take a CD off of a CD player and then you take a pen or a needle and you scratch it back and forth, 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 back and forth. Would this CD ever play the same way again? The answer is no, right? Now we can eject it and throw it away and play a new CD called happiness or calmness or peace of mind or confidence or anything that we want to feel, whatever you want to feel, okay? So this is what it looks like in practical steps. Neuro-associative conditioning comes in a few steps. Number one, we have to make the decision that we absolutely want to change. We absolutely want to get rid of the traumatic memory. We absolutely want to get rid of the panic or anxiety attacks. Like, we are done. And I don't just mean a decision as most people say. I'm talking about a true decision that comes from a place of cutting off any other possibility and committing to feeling better. So it's an absolute decision to cut off and commit. As my mentors have once told me, if you're gonna take the island, you've gotta burn your boats. Because the brain loves comfort, naturally. It's a survival instinct. So if we have boats to get to safety, we're never gonna take the island when it gets challenging, right? So we need to make a decision that says, I'm not going back. This is it. We need to hit a threshold where we say, it is way more painful to feel like this every day or every week than it is to change. I am changing now, no matter what it takes. Once you're there, all you've got to do is interrupt the pattern. What I mean by this is interrupting the pattern in your nervous system that keeps firing off this anxiety attack, okay? There's many ways to do that, but the point of the matter is, it's like scratching that CD. When we've scratched the CD in your mind, and we've scratched the CD in your body, you'll notice that the things that would typically trigger you before no longer do. You might see the same images, walking into the same situations, and it's just like kind of neutral. This is how I've helped my client Valeria.
Working with Tyler has been amazing. He has really helped me to reduce my levels of anxiety that was caused by a traffic accident almost 2 years ago. Tyler, in one session, in less than 10 minutes really, he completely took away my anxiety, and I never thought this was going to be possible after the accident.
It's also how I've helped my client Jordan.
Tyler literally changed my life in like 5 minutes. That's not an exaggeration. I'm not stretching the truth. He literally took my trauma and poof, it's gone. Check him out.
And I could go on and on with different examples like this, but the point of the matter is, all I'm doing with them is very similar to what I would do with you. And that is, we want to break that pattern in your nervous system. Unconsciously, you're being triggered by something in the environment, some sort of thought, and that thought or that situation fires off your adrenal glands, shoots adrenaline through your nervous system, and you feel that overwhelming sense of panic or anxiety, that fear. And it has positive intention. It wants you to fight the threat or run the hell away from it or freeze so it doesn't see you. But it's not helping when it's making you feel dysfunctional in your everyday life. That's the first step. We need to interrupt the pattern. And again, all that means is when you face the same things that used to trigger you, you feel kind of neutral. It just doesn't bother you, which, by the way, at first is a weird feeling. Most of my clients, like Jordan, Valeria, all of them, they usually face their triggers again after, and they're like, so such a weird feeling. Like, it's just like, it feels good to them, but it's like, this is so strange. I've been triggered by this for X amount of time, years, months, days, and I feel fine. Weird. That's the first step. The next step is that we need to create a new emotion. Because where there's now a void, right? We were feeling anxious about this before, now we're feeling neutral. The brain has to find another way to meet its needs. In other words, if we are in a situation, a relationship, or a situation at work, or a situation where we confront somebody, or we're getting into the car, and we were feeling very anxious, well, that anxiety was serving a purpose. That fear was serving a purpose of keeping you and I safe. So we can't just feel neutral. We got to find another emotion that will allow us to feel just as safe as anxiety did. Because feeling neutral probably won't do it. But feeling confident can, feeling happy can, feeling joyous can, feeling determined can, feeling strong can, feeling peace can, any of those things can, but just baseline neutral probably won't do it. So we have to train your mind and body to feel good about driving, to feel strong about getting into this relationship, to feel strong about whatever it is, right? My client Jordan, as you just saw, she looked back at her abuse, which was very extreme, by the way, and she actually chuckles now. The fact that she chuckled allowed her to find a really great man for her in about a month after working with me for only 5 minutes, by the way, and she grew a 6-figure business off the back of a 5-minute session with me. Not because I'm so brilliant, but simply because the anxiety was not in her nervous system at all anymore, which means the emotional habit that stopped her from doing all the things to grow her business and find a relationship wasn't in her way anymore. So she just naturally did that as a byproduct of relieving the anxiety. So what's the last step to NAC? The last step to neuro-associative conditioning is that last part, conditioning. We need to reward your nervous system until it goes to that strong feeling or that confident feeling or that peaceful feeling more and more and more. Because here's the thing about the nervous system. We can learn and unlearn things that fast. Your brain is learning all the time, never stops. It's a learning machine. But the only things that it keeps doing on repeat is whatever's rewarded. So whatever your nervous system deems as very pleasurable is going to do more of. And it's going to do more of it naturally. So when I'm with a client, one example is once I've helped them interrupt their pattern and create a new emotion, right? This like get in state, as I call it, to make sure that they're in a better emotional state, I'll reward them, right? Make them feel really good for it. And again, and again, and again. And if you've ever heard of Pavlov's dogs from back in the day, it's just a simple conditioning technique. The more you feel good, and we reward your nervous system. We reward your nervous system. We reward. Your nervous system is now trained. When I feel this way, when I feel strong, when I feel happy, when I feel excited, when I feel resourceful, when I feel determined, when I feel peaceful, when I feel calm, I actually feel really good. I don't sense any amount of safety and I know I'll be okay. We've now been conditioned. So what's the difference between all of this and the other therapies that you might have tried? Well, let's start with, say, EMDR, for example. Typically what they'll do is have you think about the traumatic memory to some degree, and they'll have you tapping on your chest or different points of contact on your body. And the point is to try and attempt to change the feelings you have neurologically associated to the memory. Does that make sense? So if you felt really scared thinking about this memory, the attempt of EMDR is when you're tapping and doing all these things on your body, it's to change what your nervous system, neurologically, meaning emotionally, links to the memory. That way when you think back to it, you feel fine. The problem is its response rate is really low, like a few percent. Let's try CBT. What do they do in CBT? Very often, they have you flipping your thoughts to some degree, right? Questioning your thoughts, flipping them to something positive, and then making sure you focus there. That's great and all, except you have to keep doing it continuously. And we usually feel like we're deceiving ourselves a bit, because if we believe that we are going to crash our car, as an example, if you struggle with anxiety around driving, if you believe that you're going to crash your car, but you keep flipping your thought, your brain is going to go, Tyler, fuck you, like, stop doing that. I'm annoyed, right? We're going to get probably annoyed, and the process is going to backfire. There's talk therapy, which is literally just like, how do you feel about that? Tell me more. That's not helpful at all, so let's not get into that. There's exposure therapy, which doesn't make any sense to me. Exposure therapy, by definition, is just exposing yourself to your fear, aka facing your fear, which is good in life. We've got to build that strength. The problem is when, right now, if you even think about getting in a car and you hyperventilate, or you think about getting into a relationship and having intimacy and you go into a full-blown panic attack, it's not helpful at that level of feeling to just face it. That's going to be very difficult. Your nervous system is not going to take that. We need to break the trigger. We need to interrupt that trigger in your brain, in your nervous system. Then you can expose yourself to it. That makes sense, because the triggers are gone, right? There's ERP therapy. There's all of these different therapies, but what they're really missing is interrupting the pattern in your nervous system so that the triggers are not there, creating a new emotional response, whatever you want, whatever's appropriate for you, guided by the therapist or coach, or myself, or just by your own choosing, right? And then conditioning it. What that means is, now when you think about the memory, now when you go into that situation, driving, intimacy, whatever it might be, that situation, that thought now triggers you to feel the way that you've conditioned yourself to feel. That's it. That is what neuro-associative conditioning is. Now, the reason that I claim that I will give you 100% of your money back guarantee is simply because this works. I hate to call it that simple, but it's because this works. You might have tried all of the things, and I respect that. The fact that you've tried so many things tells me you're hungry for this to work. You really want this to work. And it's exactly why I have 100% money back guarantee, because this system works. One thing you'll notice about most therapies is they either, somatic therapy is another one that I forgot. There's a lot of them that I forgot. There's just so many. But they tend to either change what you're doing with your body and or breathing, right? Somatic is a lot about breathing, a little bit about thoughts. CBT is a lot about thoughts, a little bit about breathing. Talk therapy is 100% about what you're saying and what you're focusing on. right? We have neuro-linguistic programming, which was one of my favorite, if any of them. That's mostly about images you see in your head and words that you speak. There's all of these different things, but what none of them seem to have in common except for neuro-associative conditioning is that we need to use all three parts of your nervous system: your body, your mind, and your language. When you use your body, mind, and language, but you mix up the pattern here, you mix up the pattern here, and you mix up the pattern in your body until anxiety stops, you've got it. And you'll never go back unless you deliberately choose that you want to, which I know that you wouldn't. So this is what neuro-associative conditioning is. If you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.